Selamat datang di Gonzaga Festival 2021.
Welcome to Gonzaga Festival 2021.
Acara ini disponsori oleh
This event is sponsored by
Kombifar, KFC Naughty by Nature, Auto Architect, Goreng Garing, Bakso Atom, Kinderi, dan didukung oleh
and supported by Sejuta Cita, Planet for Youth, Care Global, Jiwa Muda Bicara, Sanur FM, We The Genesis, Teen for Change, Create Teen, Earth Hero, If We Wonder, Healthpedia Indonesia, Green Scheme,
Arise a Rose, Catalyst for Growth, Tumbuh Terus Bertumbuh, Concert Music Indonesia, Event Banget, Lomba Update, Info Lomba Event.id, Yuk Design, Pray Event, Laskar Gons, Gon 7. Jatuh satu, bangkit seribu. Mari bertumbuh dengan semangat menggebu. Selamat menyaksikan.
Enjoy the show!
Cukup tetes iso dry ice, mata segar lagi guys.
Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really want to live forever, forever and ever? Forever young, I wanna be forever young.
Segarkan semangat mudamu. Kin Bulgarian Yogurt.
SMA Kolese Gonzaga membuka pendaftaran penerimaan peserta didik baru tahun ajaran 2022-2023. SMA Kolese Gonzaga membuka 2 jalur pendaftaran. Pertama, jalur prestasi dibuka pada tanggal 7 September sampai dengan 5 November 2021. Kedua, jalur reguler dibuka pada tanggal 7 September sampai dengan 12 November 2021. Informasi lebih lanjut tersedia di laman resmi www.gonzaga.sch.id. Kami tunggu kehadiranmu di SMA Kolese Gonzaga.
Good afternoon to all, and welcome to the grand finals of the Gonzaga Festival English Debate Competition. On behalf of the organizing committee, we are pleased to welcome you to our school. Before we start our competition for the day, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Moira.
And my name is Anya, and we will be the MCs for today's grand finals. Before moving on, we would also like to thank and give appreciation to the sponsors of our event, Kombifar,
KFC Naughty by Nature,
Auto Architect,
Goreng Garing,
Bakso Atom.
and Kinderi Yogurt.
We would also like to inform you that Gonzaga Festival is also open for donations. Later on, all of the collected donations will be sent to the Daya Dharma Institute of Kegiatan, which is a social service institution owned by Kegiatan to serve the main and fundamental needs of underprivileged, low-income, and other unfortunate families, especially those who have been exposed to and affected negatively by the COVID-19 pandemic. This means that your contribution, no matter how small, will matter and be a great help. So don't forget to donate as soon as possible.
To make a donation, you can scan the QR code seen on screen or simply click the link in the chat column and description box. Now, I will be doing a quick roll call to the schools that I call out. Please unmute your mic and state you are present. Seman 2 Jakarta.
Lengkap, Kak.
Seman 68 Jakarta.
We're present.
Thank you, everyone. I would like to pass the mic over to the CA, our chief adjudicator for this debate.
Thank you, Moira and Anya. Once again, I would like to thank everybody for coming to this grand finals, and everyone watching, please welcome to the competition. And we are going to conduct a motion launch, and we are going to talk about Jatuh Satu Bangkit Seribu. As the name suggests, we are going to mainly talk about social movements, and this is also the theme of this year's Gonzaga Festival competition. So let's proceed to the motion launch. A context slide for motion number 3. Mawar is a plus-size full-time influencer that benefits a lot from the body positivity movement. Her content advocates for self-love no matter the size of the body, and many of her followers are also plus-size. She rarely gets hate comments. Instead, there are a lot of support and a lot of companies that offer her endorsement contracts. And behind the screen, Mawar would sometimes feel unhappy with her current plus-size body. Since a long time ago, she feels a strong internal motivation to work out, eat less junk food, and lose weight. Does the participants have any questions regarding this specific context slide? Going once, going twice. Okay, I hope everyone has taken a note for this context slide for motion number 3. We will proceed to the motions. And the motion reads, first motion, this house prefers a movement with an individual leader compared to leaderless movements. An example of individual leader movements is Mahatma Gandhi as the leader of India's independence, for example. And then we have Martin Luther King as the leader of the Black civil rights movement in the United States. Second motion, this house believes that social movements should embrace cancel culture as a tool to promote social change. And lastly, as Mawar, this house would not lose weight. Participants, if you have any questions regarding the motions, please ask them now. Going once, going twice. Okay, since seeing there are no further questions from the participants, I yield my time back to the committee to conduct motion preference.
All right, thank you, CA. I would first like to congratulate everyone for making it to the final round. To remind everyone again for both teams as representative to please privately chat me your motion preference in speaking order as soon as possible. As usual, you have 2 minutes to decide your motion preference, the first being the motion you want to debate the most, and the last motion being the motion you don't want to debate at all. Keep in mind, if delayed, we will not be doing any time extensions and it would cost your case spilling time. Your time starts now. All right, everyone, the time is up, but from the chat box, I believe that SMIN 68 hasn't given me their motion preference, so I would like, all right, they just gave. Okay, everyone, the motion that will be debated on is motion number 2. Now that we have decided the motion, we can start our case building time. Participants are allowed to use platforms outside of Zoom to discuss and communicate with their team. We would like to remind you to not disconnect from audio, however, to please mute yourself during case building time. I would also like to inform everyone that your case building time is on the Zoom. Teams' case building time starts now.
Acara ini disponsori oleh
This event is sponsored by
Kombifar, KFC Naughty by Nature, Auto Architect, Goreng Garing, Bakso Atom, Kinderi, dan didukung oleh
and supported by Sejuta Cita, Planet for Youth, Care Global, Jiwa Muda Bicara, Sanur FM, We The Genesis, Teen for Change, Create Teen, Earth Hero, If We Wonder, Healthpedia Indonesia, Green Scheme,
Arise a Rose, Catalyst for Growth, Tumbuh Terus Bertumbuh, Concert Music Indonesia, Event Banget, Lomba Update, Info Lomba Event.id, Yuk Design, Pray Event, Laskar Gons, Gons FM.
Cukup tetes iso dry ice, mata segar lagi guys.
Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really want to live forever, forever and ever? Forever young, I wanna be forever young.
Segarkan semangat mudamu. Kin Bulgarian Yogurt.
Madu rasa, buah ketekunan para ahli madu kami sejak 1984. Pemilihan bahan baku yang dilakukan dengan ketat. Proses produksi berstandar internasional. Menghasilkan madu rasa murni, madu terbaik dari alam Indonesia. Kenikmatan rasanya, sehatkan keluarga.
Madu ya madu rasa.
SMA Kolese Gonzaga membuka pendaftaran penerimaan peserta didik baru tahun ajaran 2022-2023. SMA Kolese Gonzaga membuka 2 jalur pendaftaran. Pertama, jalur prestasi dibuka pada tanggal 7 September sampai dengan 5 November 2021. Kedua, jalur reguler dibuka pada tanggal 7 September sampai dengan 12 November 2021. Informasi lebih lanjut tersedia di laman resmi www.gonzaga.sch.id. Kami tunggu kehadiranmu di SMA Kolese Gonzaga.
Tumbuh seribu gebu, tumbuh seribu gebu. Bersatu menerjang badai sanubari memanggil, tertutup awan kelabu matahari menanti. Semua tawa dan air mata jadi alasan untuk berlari. Bila terjatuh satu kali, bangkit 1000 kali. Bangkit dari kehilangan yang kami cintai. Kami rindu kehangatan semangat yang berapi. Tumbuh seribu gebu, bersatu menerjang badai sanubari memanggil, tertutup awan kelabu matahari menanti. Semua tawa dan air mata jadi alasan untuk berlari. Bila terjatuh satu kali, bangkit 1000 kali. Bersatu menerjang badai sanubari memanggil, tertutup awan kelabu matahari menanti. Semua tawa dan air mata jadi alasan untuk berlari. Bila terjatuh satu kali, bangkit 1000 kali. Lalu tak berdaya, bertumbuh semangat, karya berbunga. Mekalah impian, guncangkan dunia, tanam dalam jiwa. Bangkit 1000 kali.
Acara ini disponsori oleh
This event is sponsored by
Kombifar, KFC Naughty by Nature, Auto Architect, Goreng Garing, Bakso Atom, Kinderi, dan didukung oleh
and supported by Sejuta Cita, Planet for Youth, Care Global, Jiwa Muda Bicara, Sanur FM, We The Genesis, Teen for Change, Create Teen, Earth Hero, If We Wonder, Healthpedia Indonesia, Green Scheme,
Arise a Rose, Catalyst for Growth, Tumbuh Terus Bertumbuh, Concert Music Indonesia, Event Banget, Lomba Update, info lomba-event.id, Yuk Design, Pray Event, Laskar Gons, Gons FM.
Cukup tetes iso dry ice, mata seger lagi guys.
Segarkan semangat mudamu. Kin Bulgarian Yogurt.
Madu rasa, buah ketekunan para ahli madu kami sejak 1984. Pemilihan bahan baku yang dilakukan dengan ketat. Proses produksi berstandar internasional. Menghasilkan madu rasa murni, madu terbaik dari alam Indonesia. Kenikmatan rasanya, sehatkan keluarga.
Madu ya madu rasa.
SMA Kolese Gonzaga membuka pendaftaran penerimaan peserta didik baru tahun ajaran 2022-2023. SMA Kolese Gonzaga membuka 2 jalur pendaftaran. Pertama, jalur prestasi dibuka pada tanggal 7 September sampai dengan 5 November 2021. Kedua, jalur reguler dibuka pada tanggal 7 September sampai dengan 12 November 2021. Informasi lebih lanjut tersedia di laman resmi www.gonzaga.sch.id. Kami tunggu kehadiranmu di SMA Kolese Gonzaga.
Jadi alasan untuk berlari bila terjatuh satu kali, bangkit 1000 kali. Bangkit dari kehilangan yang kami cintai. Kami rindu kehangatan semangat yang berapi. Tumbuh 1000 gebu. Bersatu menerjang badai sanubari memanggil. Tertutup awan kelabu, matahari menanti. Semua tawa dan air mata jadi alasan untuk berlari bila terjatuh satu kali, bangkit 1000 kali. bersatu menerjang badai, sanubari memanggil. Tertutup awan kelabu, matahari menanti. Semua tawa dan air mata jadi alasan untuk berlari. Bila terjatuh satu kali, bangkit 1000 kali. Lalu tak berdaya, bertumbuh semangat, sekar yang berbunga. Mekalah impian, guncangkan dunia, tanam dalam jiwa. Bangkit 1000 kali.
Acara ini disponsori oleh
This event is sponsored by
Kombifar, KFC Naughty by Nature, Auto Architect, Goreng Garing, Bakso Atom, Kinderi, dan didukung oleh
and supported by Sejuta Cita, Planet for Youth, Care Global, Jiwa Muda Bicara, Sanur FM, We the Genesis, Teen for Change, Create Teen, Earth Hero, If We Wonder, Helpedia Indonesia, Green Scheme,
Arise a Rose, Catalyst for Growth, Tumbuh Terus Bertumbuh, Concert Music Indonesia, Event Banget, Lomba Update, Info Lomba Event.id, Yuk Design, Pray Event, Laskar Gons, Gons FM.
Cukup tetes iso dry ice, mata seger lagi guys.
Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really want to live forever, forever and ever? Forever young, I wanna be forever young.
Segarkan semangat mudamu. Kin Bulgarian Yogurt.
Madu Rasa, buah ketekunan para ahli madu kami sejak 1984. Pemilihan bahan baku yang dilakukan dengan ketat. Proses produksi berstandar internasional. Menghasilkan madu rasa murni, madu terbaik dari alam Indonesia. Kenikmatan rasanya, sehatkan keluarga.
Madu ya madu rasa.
SMA Kolese Gonzaga membuka pendaftaran penerimaan peserta didik baru tahun ajaran 2022-2023. SMA Kolese Gonzaga membuka 2 jalur pendaftaran. Pertama, jalur prestasi dibuka pada tanggal 7 September sampai dengan 5 November 2021. Kedua, jalur reguler dibuka pada tanggal 7 September sampai dengan 12 November 2021. Informasi lebih lanjut tersedia di laman resmi www.gonzaga.sch.id. Kami tunggu kehadiranmu di SMA Kolese Gonzaga.
Jadi alasan untuk berlari bila terjatuh satu kali, bangkit 1000 kali. Bangkit dari kehilangan yang kami cintai, kami rindu kehangatan semangat yang berapi. Tumbuh 1000 gebu, bersatu menerjang badai sanubari memanggil, tertutup awan kelabu matahari menanti, semua tawa dan air mata jadi alasan untuk berlari bila terjatuh satu kali, bangkit 1000 kali. Bersatu menerjang badai sanubari memanggil, tertutup awan kelabu matahari menanti, semua tawa dan air mata jadi alasan untuk berlari bila terjatuh satu kali, bangkit 1000 kali. Lalu tak berdaya, bertumbuh semangat, sekar yang berbunga, mekalah impian, guncangkan dunia, tanam dalam jiwa.
Acara ini disponsori oleh
This event is sponsored by
Kombifar, KFC Naughty by Nature, Auto Architect, Goreng Garing, Bakso Atom, Kinderi, dan didukung oleh
and supported by Sejuta Cita, Planet for Youth, Care Global, Jiwa Muda Bicara, Sanur FM, We The Genesis, Teen for Change, Create Teen, Earth Hero, If We Wonder, Healthpedia Indonesia, Green Scheme,
Arise Rose, Catalyst for Growth, Tumbuh Terus Bertumbuh, Concert Music Indonesia, Event Banget, Lomba Update, Info Lomba Event.id, Yuk Design, Pray Event, Laskar Gons, Gons FM.
Cukup tetes iso dry ice, mata segar lagi guys.
Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really want to live forever, forever and ever? Forever young, I wanna be forever young.
Segarkan semangat mudamu. Kin Bulgarian Yogurt.
Madu rasa, buah ketekunan para ahli madu kami sejak 1984. Pemilihan bahan baku yang dilakukan dengan ketat. Proses produksi berstandar internasional. Menghasilkan madu rasa murni, madu terbaik dari alam Indonesia. Kenikmatan rasanya, sehatkan keluarga.
Madu ya madu rasa.
Okay, everyone, your case spelling time has ended, and now we can proceed to your debate. Welcome, everyone, to the grand final round of the Gonzaga Festival Debate Competition. My name is Sasha, and I'll be your moderator for this round. In government, we have SMA 68 Jakarta, with Maura as the first speaker, Jessica as the second speaker, and Elsabel as the third speaker. Reply speech is going to be given by Jessica. In opposition, we have SMA 2 Jakarta, with Gaitza as the first speaker, Alia as the second speaker, and Elena as the third speaker. Reply speech is going to be given by Alia. The motion in this round reads, the House believed that social movements should embrace cancel culture as a tool to promote social change. Before we start, I would like to remind everyone to state their preferred gender pronouns and method of POI either through the chat box or by directly unmuting, and for each participant to respect the speaker's POI preference. We would remind each speaker again to do a mic check before their speech to check if they're audible or not. Without further ado, we call upon the first speaker of the government team. Hear, hear.
All right, am I audible?
Yes, you are, but you are a bit laggy.
Oh, is it okay if I turn off my camera?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. All right. So my gender pronouns are she or her. And for POI, I prefer you to open your mic as I won't be able to read the chat box. And I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, today we will be discussing under the motion. This House believes that social movements should embrace cancel culture as a tool to promote social change. Now, we have to contextualize what the motion means. Cancel culture is a criticism or a backlash that is given to a specific person with a large platform because of a certain behavior. Cancel culture will cause a sharp decline in that person's relevance or popularity. It is efficient in making sure that the things that they do are condemned publicly and being socially punished and send a message that we need to change. Now, what do we mean by social change? What we mean by social change is that it's to change the person's views towards the person that they are being backlashed with, aiming to change the person's perceptions in order to help them realize that they are wrong and that they need to have accountability. Now, what we see here is that people misconcept what cancel culture really means. And by this, we would like to also give a status quo. Cancel culture has its own toxicity. We know that, of course. For example, the toxicity is that people who is a hater use it to their own entertainment to hate on the specific celebrity or a person with a huge platforms. Plus, the haters could bring up a person's past mistake, which has already been addressed, maybe. And we do believe that people do deserve the backlash because they receive for doing something wrong. Now, here is our stance. First is that our stance here is that people we are targeting people who have a big platform and who have a big influence for society. And the second is that we advocate culture who have a big social issues that has a lot, and also those people have a lot of influence and parties that got affected. For example, cancel culture. For example, racism, bullying, and feminism. Number third, and our third thing is that we don't advocate cancel culture for a low-level threat, for those who doesn't really have a huge platform because they don't really have a huge influence towards the bigger amount of the society. And now we will bring four main arguments today. With the first argument is why is it justifiable and what it would like to be implemented. And the second one is why is it effective? And the third one is what kind of social movement needs cancel culture? And number four is why is it morally justified? And now moving on to our first and main argument, which is why is it justifiable and what it will be like when it is implemented. First, we would like to say is that we have an objective and we have a clear motive, which is to change social culture. With this enough, we believe that cancel culture is justifiable to create a social change. And our goal is to make that person realize that their mistakes, their perception towards something is wrong, and that we must help them account. And because we have a clear objective and a clear motive, now we also talk about whether or not the person who is canceled like it or not. They have a huge influence that will influence largely of the society because they have fans, they have people to look up to, they have a huge platform to change people's perspective. This is dangerous if the person they got cancel culture because of their behavior spread wrong immorals or unjustifiable views, because then their friends or those who look up to them or just people in this
general can that is wrong and moral and is erecting view, and this will create an impact to a social change. For example, when one is saying what is a dangerous misinformation or unjustifiable views, things like partying during the COVID or anti-vax. For example, we could also give the recent news about Cardi B being patients, and for example, so James Charles and Sean Dawson were getting cancelled. And by those impact, we realize that by giving a cancel culture helps those celebrities or those who have a large platform to realize that their perception is wrong and it is unjustifiable, and we must set them accountability. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, it is justifiable. And what will it be like to be implemented? We are going to cancel them until they realize that they are wrong. For example, maybe a college, for example, Sean and Charles create an apology videos and also change by making them realizing that they're wrong, and by taking them accountable. Our goal is reached. The matter is important to be discussed, and even until the person doesn't realize that wrong, the most important thing is that it is discussed, which I will explain more in our second argument. Which our second argument is, why is it effective solution? Why? Because it is a direct solution. It is a direct solution to the source that is giving that is being cancelled. Even if those who are directly cancelled doesn't make a chance, at least it is brought up. The discussion is brought up online into the social online world, which is they have a very huge impact when things are being discussed online. People online, because they're from everyone from certain backgrounds and certain groups will have a thought and a discussion about things online, whether there was all this perception is wrong, but this is justifiable, but this is not justifiable. The important thing is that issues is being discussed online, and it is spread everywhere, and people can look at a lot of people can see new views regarding those issues. And this goes back to the point that this person might not be wrong. But the person might not be wrong, but at least the thing is that the issue is being discussed online, and that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we proudly propose the motion that is given today. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We thank the first speaker of the government team. And before we move on to the second speaker, I would like every participant to please on cam. And we call the first speaker of the opposition team. Here.
Okay, first, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so for gender pronouns is she, her, and if you want to do POI, just unmute yourself so I can see the chat. And yeah, so I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. In the current status quo where cancel culture already exists at the very first place, many influencers get canceled during this era. Tony Lopez is one of the influencers that get canceled by the TikTok society. But the cancel culture isn't enough to do social change. Knowing that he is still famous, he still get exposed. No social change happen in their cyber house. We don't want this to happen in our cyber house panels. So we think that we think that their cyber house will not ever to cater this kind of problem. We are so proud to oppose. So our stance is we will not embrace a cancel culture as a tool to promote social change with a mechanism in our side. First, we think that punishment like jail, loud cars, authority is more than enough to promote social change. And second is, but even if it doesn't enough, we think that it is better to educate them, not through cancel culture. It's better to just block these people, not to inviting society to hate these people, right? You need to understand that cancel culture is not a trend, not a promotion platform panels. Your purpose is not for just followers, but for the social chance itself. We think that their cyber house, even they want to get they get followers from the society that are most likely easy to be propagated. It means that the quality of their followers is bad, and at the end of the day, when you get a bad followers, you will lose followers, right? So society will see you as
as a member is so propagative and having an over promotion. So at the end of the day, it will not be good anyway. Like the social change will not be good anyway in their side of the house, right? So our goal is both sides. We want to have we have a goal to promote social change, but we think that you should use the healthier way to do these panels without actually bringing it into a trend movement where you need to understand that these society focus on the artists that being cancelled, not focus on the social movement itself. Panels. So before I jump into my argument, I will bring several rebuttals on what the proposition side already bring. They said that they have a clear objective. They have a clear objective. They have a clear motive. But maybe yes, they have a clear motive at the very first place, but they will most likely be unstable panels because the character of the society, they will actually more likely to mock them without actually educating them, without actually promoting the social change itself panels. So we think that at the end of the day, maybe they have a clear objective at the very first place, but at the end of the day, they will not able to cater this problem, which is the social which is to get the social change itself, and also their arguments about this is very irrelevant. And second of all, they say about James Charles being like change, or they people not support them or whatever. But here's the thing: James Charles is still famous now. And also people still support the James Charles, and also James Charles are still being problematic. No, James Charles are still being problematic in the status quo panels. Notice on James Charles, after his apologize video, he's still being grooming the minors panels. So the the cancel culture itself isn't enough. So they say that apology video is enough because it makes them realize that notice that it is not enough, like what I already stated before, that James Charles still do that kind of thing, and Tony Lopez still do grooming the minors and stuff like that. So it is not enough. So they say that it is a direct solution. We think that this is not a direct solution, and I will explain you later why it's not a direct solution in my argument. So they will say that it will be discussed online, but we think this is not exclusive at the end of the day, because in our cyber house we will also get the discuss online, because the platform of social change is still there, right? So the discuss of online will still exist in our cyber house. So their argument isn't true, and also their argument isn't exclusive at the very first place. So their arguments already fall at the very first place. So moving on to my argument, let's see about the status quo. Let's see in the status quo, many problematic persons are famous on the internet. They're being artist panels, such as Sapu Jame is getting exposed, even even that he being into prison, and he even already get the cancel culture, but the society he still have the opportunity to work panels. Maybe the government will say that Saipul Jamil get rejected by 18 corporation, but panels, you need to realize that Saipul Jamil get accepted at Kementerian. It's even bigger thing, and he's now in the government, a predator being in the government after getting canceled. So we think that their cyber house, the cancel culture is not enough panels. So this is why in the status quo, cancel culture is not enough. So let's see the characteristic of the society. You need to understand the society are easy to provocate in the first place when their announcement that this person is being cancelled without actually knowing the context and know the backstory. We think that this is so bad that these people being provoked without actually know what happened, right? So the cancel culture at the very first place at the very first place is the interest is to make people aware, but so they will not do that bad action or their action, right? Like the figure that being canceled, but it is getting changed on their cancel culture, actually giving them the platform for you to blame them, right, panels? So why blaming them will be harm, I will explain later in my second layer. So moving on to my second layer, why cancel culture is being problematic, because cancel culture is a movement that over glorifying the predator panels, the wrong person panels. Let's see how cancel culture works. Cancel culture is a movement that the society spreading bad news about this person, so the person will able to know that this influencer is problematic, and they will so that it hope that they will not support the influencer, right? But why this is problematic in the very first place? Because the society already has the tendency to mock that influencer without actually trying to educate them. Why are you able to say this? Because let's say in the status quo, there's several influencers that are being problematic, like for example making birthday party, doing PPKM. People tend to mock them, mock the TikToker in the comment section. And why this is problematic? Because it is not only mocking them because of the problem, they mock them with other aspect panels, and the likelihood of society that mock the influencer because they are already seen that influencer as a bad person, so they will mock the entire aspect of that influencer without that shouldn't be mocked, and they aren't trying to educate themselves and discuss bullying to the influencer. And why bullying in the very first place is problematic, even that person is already problematic in the very first place, because it is they will only focus to mock them without actually educate themselves that their action is bad, why there's tendency not to educate, it is because the society will think that they are better than this problematic person. So they will only mocking them, and they will already feel that they are better without actually trying to analysis like why this able to happen, and why they will stop themselves for not doing this kind of problematic things, right? So and this is happening in the status quo, because at the end of the day, messages should be given to the society will not achieve to educate themselves. Okay, even if the society are able to educate themselves, why is our sense is still better? Because there's have a house, they will educate them, but with mocking the influencer at the very first place, because the cancel culture will able to do will able to cancel the influencer if the news are viral, right? So, and like what I already said in the status quo, the moment when you when problematic person are viral, they will be mocking them, and maybe they're able to gain followers, but their followers are people that are educated themselves, and this is bad for the movement itself, because other people being problematic, they will quick jump into the decision with mocking them without actually trying to educate themselves, and because they think that they are better than the influencer itself. So at the end of the day, it will not achieve. So let's a comparison on our side of the house. The trend will be blaming this person will not happen. Panels. So we think that we think that our benefit is exclusive, and we're so proud of this. Thank you.
We thank the first speaker of the opposition team, and again, I would like to remind everyone to turn on the camera as it is mandatory in this debate. And we call on the second speaker of the government team. Here.
Am I audible?
Yes, well.
My pronouns are she, her, and if you want to give any POI, just go ahead and unmute yourself because I will not be reading the chat. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judges, let's see how opposition side of the house here clearly isn't understanding what the first speaker from our side of the house has already clearly brought. First, they talk about how they over and over talked about how it is not enough, and not enough. When obviously the motion here is not a solution. We're not saying that we're using this as a solution for social change. We're using it as a tool. Because in the end of the day, we want to make efficiency. We want to find an effective solution, and this is just one of the tools that we would do in order to promote social change. One thing is that. Next, I will be giving 4 rebuttals towards the opposition side of the house. First, they took the examples of James Charles and Tony Lopez. Now here we're not talking about the cancel culture that is already currently existing. Like what first speaker from our side of the house already mentioned, cancel culture is obviously toxic. We all know that. We're all aware of that. However, our side of the house advocates and believes that with the cancel culture that we advocate for is those that have an objective and don't have unnecessary hate to it. With this kind of cancel culture that has been done to James Charles and Tony Lopez, they're obviously doing it just for their own entertainment, just to make fun of them. They're doing it because they want to. They're doing it because their haters are suddenly there, using it as a platform to talk about all the bad stuff that they have done, when this is exactly not what we are advocating for. Next, talking about how James Charles currently is still famous. Now, the problem is that another point that we do not want to take away their livelihood. At the end of the day, these public figures have their platform as their livelihood, and that is not what they want. What we want. We don't want to take away the fact that they are famous. We just want them to take accountability for their actions, and for people to understand, for them to understand that what they are doing is wrong and that it should be discussed. Next, talking about how they obviously talk over and over and over again about how it is not enough, when exactly cancel culture, how it is not enough, and that instead of that, they want to educate the people. Now here, we see that the opposition side of the house, it's clearly being unrealistic, because if we think about it logically, if you were to either give people backlash or to educate them, educating is such a passive process that obviously people would not follow it. Let's be realistic here. Educating them would do nothing. They would do way, way less than actually giving them the backlash and giving them the shock that what they're doing is wrong, being direct to them, telling them what they're doing is wrong, and that they have to repent for their actions. Which is why we're saying that even cancel culture here brings the issue to the table, and in the end of the day, educates them and educates society towards the problem that we are facing. So actually, their solution of educating is already brought in the movement of cancel culture itself. In the end of the day, it is not effective, and it can be implemented through this cancel culture itself. Next, I will be moving on to my motions. So we will be bringing 4 motions here. First is why is it justifiable. Second, effectiveness. Third, why the morality of this, why is it morally just? Fourth, what kind of social movements are we talking about? And I'll be bringing a sort of stakeholder analysis for this, why it is best for all sides in society here right now. The first speaker of our house has already brought about why is it more effective, because one, more direct solution. Second, the issue is actually being brought to the table. But let's talk about why it would not be effective on their side of the house. Why do we not, what would happen if we were not to implement this motion? One, the issue is just being swept under the rug. Because as we can see here, society would not want, they wouldn't be as interested if it was just an educating process, whatever it is. They never even talked about how they want to educate these people. They never gave a clear picture of what it would be like. Educating through what? Through the government? I don't know. Through the people? I don't know. They never explained at all about this, which is why we demand an explanation from the opposite side of the house. That's first. The problems are swept under the rug, because if we were to implement this motion, at least the issue is being discussed and people are able to find out what is right, what is wrong. The news outlets will be talking about this because it's something viral, and right now viral things are what's really effective when we want to promote social change. Things that are hugely discussed, things that are controversial. When we talk about these issues, then we are able to find out what we're supposed to do, what we're not supposed to do, what is right, what is wrong, and then we can find a solution. And as well, educate the people and educate the influencers. Second, justice is not brought up in this issue. If this issue is just swept under the rug, like we said before, we're not able to find out what is right, what is wrong. Third, these important topics would not be brought up. All right, now let's talk about why, even in our worst case scenario, it would be better than their best case scenario. Our worst case scenario is, even if these people do not change, even if these people do not say sorry, or they do say sorry and they go back to being famous again, and they still have some fans, at least we can see right now that James Charles, he has so many haters because people are aware of the fact that he does a lot of bad things and that they should not follow people like him and that he is not a right public figure. They know the things that he has done wrong. But if we were not to implement this motion, no one would know that. People would not be aware that what this person is doing is bad and that these issues should be talked about. An example we can take is saying the N-word. A few years back, let's just go back to about 10 years. People didn't understand the significance of the N-word as much as it is talked about now. Why? Because cancel culture exists, and a lot of public influencers, they were canceled for saying the N-word, which is why the topic was then discussed, talking about why it has, what significance it has, what meaning it has behind it. And now people are way more careful and they understand, they are educated about the fact that there is a negative connotation behind that word and that we should not just carelessly say it, which just shows that cancel culture can really educate not only the influencers, not only tell them that they are wrong, but also society. Because when society sees, when these people, these followers see that their public figures are doing that kind of thing, it will be normalized and they will not know that it is a mistake. And then what is their best case scenario? Their best case scenario, like what we said before, is to only educate these influencers. Once again, they never really explain what educating means. And once again, let's be realistic, educating them would not bring a lot of significance, would not bring a lot of efficiency. And in the end of the day, it would be very, very hard to actually educate a huge amount of people for us to actually do social change. Because educating, even if it's at its most effective, it will only educate the influencer itself at most. Now, let's talk about why is it morally just? It is morally just because in the end of the day, these social media influencers have a big platform and it's their responsibility. They should be aware that whether or not they like it, they have a certain amount of influence towards people and that they should be responsible towards the things that they did and that they should take accountability if they were to do something wrong. And they should educate their followers as well and fans as well that what they did was wrong. Also a bit information on what kind of social movements that we're talking about. We're talking about social movements that have a lot of controversy and power over society. For example, bullying, racism, blackface, N-word, sexual harassment, feminism, and other things as such. Quick stakeholder analysis for people, they are able to be aware of what is right, what is wrong. They're able to find out about what should not be done or not. And for influencers, they are able to take accountability, able to learn from their mistakes. And so in the end of the day, from our arguments, it's way more structured and showing that our side of the house deserves to win. And I am proud to propose. Thank you.
We thank the second speaker of the government team. I would like to remind everyone again to turn on their camera as it is mandatory in this debate. And we call the second speaker of the opposition team. Here.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, give me a second, please. But sorry, before I cannot really turn on my camera because I have internet connections issues, if that's fine.
Okay, it is okay.
Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels. Notice that we already bring mechanism that will not only educate them panels, we will block them so they wouldn't get any spotlight like they should, and we'll also give them punishments like jail, loss, cutters, stuff like that. That are all of it already mentioned on our first speaker. They said really bad and they never listened to our mechanisms panels. So now onto my rebuttals. Firstly, starting from the first speakers, how their arguments consist of why is it justified and how their side will create discussions. On why is it justified, they said that it's make the person realize about their mistakes. First responses is, we believe that it will create a backlash because cancel culture only aims on to call out people and not educate them. There's no likelihood of them or that people that they call out to educate themselves by the end of the day. We believe that they only spread hates towards these people, which will be backlash by the end of the day, and I will explain that elaborated on my arguments later. Secondly, they mentioned about how their side will create discussions. First responses, we believe that it is untrue. We believe that the spotlight that cancel culture gives have nothing to do with discussions. They need to realize that the likelihood of cancel culture only brings hate by the end of the day. Even if it's through panels, it is unexclusive because our proposals brings discussions and discussion and educations too. We believe our side of the house is better because we are aligned with our interest, which is to educate and spread awareness instead of hate, right? They need to show you on how their side of the house have likelihood of this thing to be achievable, or else their side cannot win because it's not correlated with our interests at the very first place. And they also and then on the second speaker, they mentioned about how we neglect their first speakers by saying that, oh, our side only use this as tool, which is not irrelevant at all, because it's exactly what we're saying. It's exactly what we mean as tools, which means you're using cancel culture to actually call out people that are wrong. But we believe that it is unjustified and create backlash, with already explained by my speaker. They also mentions about how their side only want to those people that being called out to just take accountabilities. First response to this, we believe that it is untrue. The real world wouldn't look like that. They neglect the fact and examples by my first speakers what that shows an actual real life of cancel culture is like in online societies, right? They're the ones that live in imaginary world. Exactly the moment their side of the house neglect the fact and examples given by my first speakers. And also even though taking accountabilities might be achievable on their side of the house, we believe that it's not exclusive as well, because their side clear, because we believe that their side of the house by the end of the day only promote mocking, and society will not listen to them even though they try to educate, because they already label this movement or communities as like a bad communities that spread hate, right? They also make a contradictions panels. Second speaker said that education is not important. The educations on our side of the house will do nothing, and how it is unrealistic. But notice on how their first speakers mentions that their impact is to create discussions so that they could educate people, right? Which is why if they said that educate people is unimportant or will do nothing, then why would they even put it on their mechanisms, right? They contradicted and mechanism, which is a really bad thing. And then lastly, about how their side mentions their worst case scenario is still better than our best case scenarios, by telling that even if those people don't say sorry, at least people wouldn't hate them. Notice that it's not even their worst case scenario, because that people do not say sorry is actually what will happen. It is not worst case scenario. It is what will actually happen. It is it is the scenario that have the biggest likelihood to happen. But there's worst case scenario if our acts of movement will be seen bad, and how our side will only spread hate, which is not correlated to our interests, right? And responses to this, we also believe that their side is wrong for glorifying this, glorifying that people would hate them as punishments is a benefit, right? We believe that hates that attract those peoples are backlash towards our movement, because it can create our movement a bad names. And they also said that it is better than our side without even engaging on how our side will apply, and only bring the worst case on our side and telling them that it is our best case, which is completely wrong. Now open to my arguments. Here I will bring about two arguments, which is how our side can shift the focus to spotlight what actually matters, and how our side on how their side will backlash and how their side will bring bad things by the end of the day. So on the first argument, we believe that their side of the house only glorifies but the persons which didn't align with our interests. The spotlight should go to our activists and movements instead of the persons that did wrong, right? Cancel culture only worsens scenario because social movement or the social activists would barely achieve what our goals and our aims is. Two scenarios that might happen on their side of the house. Firstly, they mentioned itself that cancel culture will be a viral thing, right? And how it is a trend. we believe that many influencers outside of the act of activism itself will join this cancel culture because it was a trend, right? They want to be seen nice and supportive towards some kind of activism. No, thank you. And they also want to gain attention, right? Because they're influencers. There are really big likelihood of them joining the trend solely to get attention, and they didn't even educate themselves about the matters, right? We believe this is harmful because it shifts the focus to the trend. So the actual people from the community itself that wants to educate wouldn't get the spotlight, right? Realize how influencers have a really big impact toward online communities. The moment they join the trends without even knowing the reason of cancellations that happens, they would just take the spotlight from what actually matters. This likelihood is so big and it will happen. No, thank you. It's happening in the status quo right now. For example, a lot of people call out about artists doing cultural appropriations, right? And a lot of people also join to call artists, right? But what does impact? They cover people from the actual culture to speak up about this event, right? Even if the influencer attention is nice or they actually want to educate their followers, most of the time they only covers the people that actually should get the actual spotlight, right? And that people that actually want to educate about the matters, which is why we believe that impact is bad by the day. On our side of the house, compared to our side, on our mechanisms, show on how our side we are actually aligned with our interests because we aim to educate panels. Yes, we concede we might not get that much attention without those trends, but we believe our side is still better because we fully achieve our aim to educate. We believe that long time is fine because if we want it fast, we will end up getting backlash where people that join us only do it for trends, which is really bad things, as I explained. This is bad because when your followers itself are uneducated or the people that join our movements are uneducated and don't want to educate themselves, if they educate themselves, which is really bad thing. Even if they want to educate themselves, if after they join the movement, we still think it's not exclusive because on our side of the house, we can also attract people that actually support and know our goal to follow our movement. So even if it's slow, it's shares and it's consistent, which is why it's benefit on our side of the house. Second scenarios, even if those influencers didn't join the trends or the cancel cultures itself, which is only fully from the peoples of the movement and of the communities itself, we believe it is still bad because it can bring bad names, which is opens to my second arguments. Firstly, before I start that, a little bit of characteristic. Cancel cultures, cancel cultures rarely share anything about education and awareness on what the social movement itself supports, but instead focus on the canceling of the person that makes mistake, right? This narrative mostly points out about one person's mistakes and rarely spread out about what persons should have done, right? We believe that this will bring our community's bad name because the highlight of the cancel culture will only focus on telling people that someone did wrong instead of educating them to not be like those persons. Like, notice that my first speakers also mentioned that people online are easy to be provoked. The narrative will only bring hate towards the person. Why those hates are bad by the end of the day? We believe that it is bad because it shows on how our movements or our community is harsh and just full of hate, which is a total opposite from our aims and goals, right? We want to avoid that because on our side of the house, we will educate people as how it is aligned with our interests and stand. We want to avoid backlash where people will think that we are bad by the end of the day. Worst case scenarios in our side is when education or side how they're able to achieve or grow slowly. First response, we believe that it is less likely to happen because on social media, we believe that we can educate on social media where things can be spread easily. So we think that our aim to reach more audience is always possible if it does online, right? But even if it doesn't happen, we believe slow progress is fine because our slow progress makes a good progress instead of just getting backlash on their side of the house and how their side of the house inconsistent with and not aligned with interest, which is why it shows on how our side is our side is better. I'm so proud to propose. Thank you.
All right, we thank the second speaker of the opposition team. I would like to remind everyone again to turn on the camera as it is mandatory in this debate. And we call the third speaker of the government team. Here.
Okay, my gender pronouns is she or her, and I prefer you to open your mic if you want to point some information. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, let's see that we both sides of the house want change in the society, but under this motion, our side of the house propose a better solution by canceling those public figure and our second speaker and first speaker has stated that how are we gonna implement those cancel culture. The first one is we do not advocate for the low level hate because they don't have a bigger platform. They don't have a wide enough platform to influence other people. And second, we won't advocate for unnecessarily prolonged cancel culture. And because of that, we do not advocate for bringing up their past mistakes in the process. Because what? Because we believe if they have passed their mistakes, if they have realized their mistakes and moving on with their life, living their life freely without doing any more mistakes, then it's not necessarily we have to bring up about their past mistakes. And now first of all, why is it our house is better than the opposition side of the house? Because we want this public figure to be accountable, to be responsible of what they're doing, and what are their next step, what future might holds them. And from the solution or from the solution that was proposed by the opposition side of the house, they did not mention or elaborate how do they want to make those public figure responsible. And about education, because they do not elaborate anything about their solution, they only talk about education by not explaining what kind of education, how are you going to educate, to whom are you going to educate. And it doesn't mean that we say that education is not important, or in our scenario there is no education. We rather believe that by making public discussions in terms of canceling those public figures is also about education. Why? Because there will be some smart people who can take the lead of the discussion, who can actually tell other people about what is right and what is wrong, and it's an education for the society. It is also an education for the public figure themselves, because they will listen to what people are talking about. And now moving on into 3 points that are clashing in this debate. The first one is about education. Ladies and gentlemen, the government side of the house, we have objectives and boundaries. As what our first speaker has stated, our objectives is that we will make the public figure realize, change, and make a social change by showing that they are responsible, by showing that they know what they did was wrong and they change. And because of that, they will use their platform to show their growth, because it's all about growth too. And people can change, people can grow, but we also in this we also have boundaries. That our boundaries is that we will not hate them, and we will giving them second change by giving them the change by making them still can utilize their platform to show that they can change. This is unlike the opposition side of the house proposed that they will block them. And actually block is also a cancel culture too, because you cancel them, so you block them to don't have any platform, and it's a form of the platformize. And if you block the public figures, which this is unjustified, because they are still human and they might only say something wrong. They might only say something wrong, but they do not harm you in a direct and personal way. And it's just not just because they can change and you just block them. You block them from getting the second chance and making money for a living, making money for a living. And second, why is this justified? Because if people talk about some certain issue, then there will be media coverage. Media will talk. For instance, people are talking about the N-word because some celebrities were saying that, and because of that, we cancel those celebrities. And after that, the media covers about how bad is it if you say the N-word, and it will create some reading. So people in the future can learn about the past events, can learn about the past mistakes that the past public figures made. And so that's why many people will be educated by our tool, by our way. And second point is that the impact to social change. We believe it's a direct solution to the society, because compared to do nothing or not taking any serious action by relying on the authority to take them to jail, for instance, and our worst case scenario is again better than your best case scenario, because at least people in the future know what is right, what is wrong, and they won't follow the public figure if they did something wrong. And if the public figure does not change, for instance, is the worst case scenario, then at least you are educated, people are aware, and yes, we can still give them second chance if they eventually apologize. And we're not trying to send hate or make them not popular anymore. Not unlike the opposition side of the house, which who blocks them from having the second chance and make money for a living. And their solution by putting them to jail, such as the first speaker proposed, doesn't educate the people. it's better to educate a mass of people than just educate the person privately, because we assume that we will educate the person privately because you didn't elaborate it. And for example, Saipul Jamil, he got jailed for 6 years, and after he got out, he didn't get any education. We cancel them because other people who were not educated by canceling them in the past didn't know that what he did was wrong. And educating but block them, for instance, maybe you will educate them privately but you block them, then how are they gonna make the change to spread it, to use their platform to spread what is it the right thing actually? And the last point that is clashing is about why is it morally just. We believe that after all, they did something wrong and we have to do something to make them realize. The idea of if you dare to do something, you have to be ready for the consequences or you have to be responsible. And because you are blocking them or deplatformizing them, it is unjust, unlike we propose the best scenario and still morally just. That is why we are proud to propose please vote for us.
We thank the third speaker of the government team. And again, I would like to remind everyone to turn on their camera as it is mandatory in this debate. And we call the third speaker of the opposition team. Here.
I don't think that I can open my cameras because my laptop is suddenly error right now. Is it okay?
It is okay.
Okay. I will start my speech. Oh, wait. We'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. And also, I think the set of the House already felt on this debate because of several reasons. Firstly, let me clearing the mechanism because it's still not clear until the end of the debate, right? What is the difference with our set of the House? We educate these people through our mechanism. We told society that you should not following this artist that being cancelled, do without provocate them and inviting them to hate these peoples, right? We will educate these peoples when media already announced and clarify that an influencer is guilty. So under our side, we will not directly take conclusions that these peoples is guilty. Punishment is not our burden, Panas. You need to realize that your burden is to change these people's mindset, right? If you talk about punishment, then it already exists at the very first place. Social punishment through gossip, through jail, it exists on the status quo, right? On the comparison on the side of the House, you need to realize when they canceling, it means they told society that these peoples are guilty. You need to canceling them. And this social movement inviting peoples to actually hating them, right? So it's totally different with our side of the House because under our side, you need to understand that we will not inviting peoples to actually start provocate each other and start hating this influencer, right? Basically, you need to understand that the interest of social movement is to being consistent to social change itself. On their side, this will not achieve because your purpose at the first place is to change these people's mindset, right? But it become an interest to inviting people, canceling them, hating them. That's why on the side of the House, interest of social movement will not achieve in the end of the day because the purpose itself changed into inviting people to canceling these people to actually like hating them, right? But thirdly, they told you that these influencers does not have platform to get spotlight. But you need to realize, panels, that they are the one who give them spotlight through cancel culture itself. The social movement announced to society that you should hate an A artist, for example. It means you give spotlight for them there, right? I don't understand on their set of what they cite talking, right? But fourthly, they told you that they will not bring past mistake, but they never explain why this happened, right? They told you about about their arguments, but there is no likelihood because, you know, we already bring the characteristic of society who are easily to being provoked without actually knowing the backstory or the context itself, right? Yes, they will make harm direct for the influencer itself, but they are not directly giving educations, giving information to society about how this influencer is doing bad action. All of they told to society is that this artist is guilty and and you need to hate them, right? Lastly, the boundaries is too late, but even if it's not late, it's not likely they stole our arguments when we told you that these people start hating these influencers because you thought about cancel culture, right? I don't understand why on the other side of the house they can give a boundaries for people to not hating this artist, right? Moving to my clash, I found two clash on this debate. First clash on justification level. They told you about misconceptions, but they say that these people deserve this hate. Three responses. Firstly, this is not important. The fact is that your purpose is to do social change, not to inviting people hating them. The fact when you say about misconceptions, it means this society does not know what kind of wrong action that this artist that being considered or no, right? Secondly, you need to understand that these days, cancel culture is become a trend on social medias like TikTok. Small mistake can make you being cancelled, and we don't think it's justified, right? Second chance still exists for people to do small mistake panels. You need to understand when you let these people canceling these influencers just because small mistake, it means you give a message to society that if someone do mistake for them, I need to cancel them. You should hate them. It would be hard for society to forgive people in the end of the day. There's a never response to that, right? Third, lastly, even if it's justified, it's not significant. You need to realize that in society having misconception, right? It means we're questioning to them how they can make people being smart and educated and know about cancel culture when a lot of people being propagated panels, the benefit will not achieve because they told you from first until third speaker that they can make society know what action is wrong or no, right? The fact is that it will not achieve because the likelihood of society doesn't know about the backstory of or what wrong actions that the influencers do, right? But on the second point, make these influencers realize two responses. Firstly, this is not true. The fact is that okay, they had comments, but it does not mean they will suddenly realize, knowing that they realize when influencers get spotlight, even though the spotlight is in hate comments they still happy. Because why? Some parties can give them job to inviting them at variety show to do clarification video to entertaining society, right? This is characteristic of society that you need to change. When people doing bad actions, society give them spotlight panels, even if in the hate comment form, they still happy because they get spotlight, right? The fact is that spotlight is not benefiting you as social movement, but give this influencer spotlight. Secondly, even if it's true, it's not exclusive, right? When influencers do bad things, they still get punishment like jail punishment, law punishment, or even if they don't get that, there are social punishment, right? We think on the status quo is more than enough to give this influencer realization, right? What makes the cancel culture exclusive? But lastly, discussion will exist. Three responses. Firstly, this is not significant. This is not a significant benefit that the discussion that happen is in a gossip forms, only gossiping about the bad actions just for a material to entertaining society to have something to talk. And we don't think that this is benefiting, right? This kind of discussion is not benefiting because it's only like a toxic discussions where you only gossiping them. It is only in the form of material for you to having something to discuss. But secondly, not exclusive. Discussion will happen under of the house anyways. When artists being problematic, there will be news reporting this, right? What makes the discussion exclusive? Lastly, even if it's exclusive, we think the discussion will not useful because you need to realize people use this for just gossip for one day. When the next day there is another artist, they will start changing the topic. They will start changing the gossip, right? In the end of the day, on the side of the house, social change will not happen because society only use that for entertainment purpose to just having a materials to talk, right? Comparatively, under side of the house, you need to realize when we didn't make this as a trend, after society will not being provocated, right? The society will not using this as a gossip, but on our mechanism, on their side, you need to realize there will be no self-reflection because all you do is just blaming, right? Even if on their side they can get followers, all of they got is bad followers, where it contains people who are easily blaming these people. Society will see you as a bad movement because you're generalizing that blaming people is okay. In the end of the day, you get bad names, as my second speaker told you, right? Under our worst case scenario, even if the progress to educate these people is step by step and kind of slow, it's okay. So if they talk about followers, you need to weigh which one will choose, right? Quantity versus quality. You should choose quality because in the end of the day, if you get a lot of quantity on their side of the house, you will lose your followers again because all of your followers is just blaming people, hating people. You're not being consistent. You give society message that if people doing mistake, what you need to do is blaming and hating them. That's why we are so proud to propose. Thank you.
We thank the third speaker of the opposition team, and again, I would like to remind everyone to turn on their camera as it is mandatory in this debate. And we call the reply speaker of the opposition team to close the opposition's case. Here.
Okay, before I start, is my audio clear? Because if it's not, I'm going to turn off my cameras again.
Yes, you are clear.
Okay, good. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, notice that their site clearly promoting mocking. They never bring likelihood on why mocking will actually make people change, or mocking will be the exact potential way to make our goal achieved. So, which is why we believe their site achieved something at the end of the day. Let me sum up the debate, starting from the justification class. Their first speaker's arguments only talks about how it is justified because it can make the person realize that their mistakes. They never bring any likelihood on how those people would listen to them or how their proposal will work. Panels. Our side responses them this by telling you that this is not what will happen, but instead it will be backlash for the communities. My first speaker contributes on giving mechanisms of never engage. My first speakers also told you the characteristics of societies and how they're easy to be provoked, which shows that these motions will not go well and cannot be justified by the end of the day because what their side glorifies will not work. We shows bigger likelihood that these proposals will only send hates toward the people which are not correlated to what our goals and stances as social movements, right? They never respond to this well and even neglected the real life example of cancel culture itself, that their side should engage. But they only mention about how it is wrong, but they didn't tell us what will exactly happen on their side of the house and likelihoods. We believe that the argument is not enough. What our side contributes to you? We give likelihood of the real world and it shows on how society is too easy to be provoked to the moment it will only pass hate because of this. Their side only said it is untrue but failed to elaborate anything, which is why we believe their responses is not enough. Panels. Their burdens to answer about why it is justified cannot stand to the moment there is no likelihood, which is why we believe our side win the justification class. On to practical class. Their side barely shows any their side barely brings any arguments about impact and only bring extensions from their first speakers. But let's talk about it, shall we? They bring arguments about how in the long term they will create discussions. Our responses is firstly untrue. We believe the spotlight that cancel culture gives have nothing to do with discussion. They need to realize that the likelihood of cancel cultures only bring hate. Even if it's true, it is unexclusive because our proposals bring discussion too and educations as well. They need to show you on how their side have likelihood of this thing to be achievable, or else their side cannot win because it's not correlated with our interests at the very first place. They also mentioned about how they just want those people to take accountabilities of their mistakes, neglecting the fact that hates are the ones that will be spotlighted, right? We believe that this argument is untrue. The real world wouldn't look like that. They shows no likelihood so that arguments cannot be credited, right? Even if it's happened, it is not exclusive at the end of the day. On their side, cancel culture is becoming a trend, but people blaming this artist being cancelled, and you need to know that it gives them spotlight, which is not our interest. Panels. If your interest as social movement is to change these people's mindsets, right? But the educations have to come from you as a social movement itself, not from the people that you cancel, right? Understand that when these people or artists that being canceled get spotlight, there will be no any kind of education because all the spotlight is not for you, but for the people that you cancel, right? Even if it's under our side, you gain followers slowly, but at least you got followers who have a good enough qualities. Because it is important to have a good qualities followers because our purpose is to change. To make a social change, right? So lastly, what our side brings, we shows on how their side will only bring bad things and will only shift focus on the actual things that should be highlighted, which is a really bad thing because it is not correlated to our aims and our goals. We elaborate on characteristic of societies and likelihood of things that our side on our arguments brings to happen, right? Their side didn't engage in this, and even their responses is limited to that how argument is untrue, but fail to elaborate nor explains the likelihood of their side will be true or will be achievable, right? We believe this class should be win by our side as well as how we shows impacts and likelihood by the end of the day. At the end, we believe that we are able to fulfill the interest of the movement to make people change, and we also correlated with our goals. We also fulfill our burden of proof, where we also shows about likelihood and how likelihood characteristic and clear mechanisms. We're so proud to oppose. Thank you.
All right, we thank the reply speaker of the opposition team, and I would like to remind everyone again to turn on their camera as it is mandatory in this debate. And now we call on the reply speaker of the government team to end the debate. Here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Once again, pronouns are she, her. All right. I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judges, let's be clear here. The government side of the house has a we're very exhausted listening to the arguments that has been brought by opposition house. Why? Because one, they clearly don't understand the things that we have been saying over and over again, and they clearly are bringing a case that is very vague and never in the first place give a clear framework of what it is. Let's talk about two huge issues that the opposition side of the house has towards our side of the house. First, they clearly said, as a response towards how they would educate, they clearly said that they would not only educate, but also, quote unquote, block the influencers. And what does block mean? It means to bring them down from their platform, which exactly is our motion, which is to cancel them. So in the end of the day, really, which stance are you in opposition house? Are you in our side or are you in your own side? Please be clear on your stance. And also, they talked about how in the end of the day, there would still be social punishment. They talked about social punishment, and they talked about it, meaning that psychologically, you do agree that cancel culture is needed because cancel culture equals social punishment. They're talking that social punishment is needed for people to understand that they need to take accountability. Second is they do not understand what we're talking about. They clearly don't understand what the motion is talking about. The motion clearly says that we're using cancel culture as a tool, but they over and over and over again talk about how we're saying that it's a trend, when obviously we're saying that we're using it as a tool, not as a trend to ask people to join and hate on this guy, on this certain influencer. And we also talked about how we would not focus on low-level things, saying that we only talk about the huge objectives. We talk about controversies that have a lot of power over society, for example, bullying, racism, blackface, and other stuff like that. And we also do not advocate for unnecessary hate, which we have been talking about over and over again. But for some reason, opposition side of the house keep bringing it over 1,000 times already. And so moving on to the overview of today's debate, the points brought by government and the points brought by opposition, and why, in the end of the day, our side of the house brings a more structured and clearer debate than the opposition side of the house. Let's talk about the burden of proof that we have. First is, why is cancel culture justified? Our side of the house talked about why it's justifiable because we have a clear objective, which is to create social change. And how do you create social change? It means that we need to have a huge effect. We need to have as much influence as possible. And how do we do that? We do that by getting a lot of media coverage, by getting virality through this issue. How do we do that? We do that through cancel culture. By implementing cancel culture, people are able to be more aware of this issue. People are able to be educated by it, educated from it. And in the end of the day, the influencers themselves are able to learn from it and take accountability. Second, why is it justifiable? Because the influencers themselves have a big platform, meaning that they have the responsibility to take accountability for the actions. And once again, it is also morally just because of this fact itself, because they have to understand that they have a certain amount of influence over the people. The other side of the house didn't really talk about why it was actually justifiable, and their solution here is only to educate. And let's be realistic here, if even giving backlash would not make them change, how would educating them would actually help? Educating would not give as much it would not give as much effect as if we were to implement cancel culture. And also, once again, if we were to only educate the people, that means we're only focusing on the person who has caused, on the public figure itself, meaning that we're not able to educate the people as well, which in the case of our side of the house would be able to do that. Second is, let's talk about what kind of social movement needs cancel culture, the second burden of truth. The social movement that we're talking about is, like I said before, the controversial ones that would actually attract a lot of attention from the people, meaning that it would be able to reach more people and that it would be much more effective in the end of the day. Why is ours more effective than them? Because one, it is a direct solution and the issue is brought to the table, meaning that it will be discussed and it will, in the end of the day, educate the people, even if it is at the worst case scenario. But why is our worst case scenario better than their best case scenario? Their best case scenario, in the end of the day, does not bring as much efficiency as us, and they never even really clarified what educating means. And so in the end of the day, our side of the house brings way more points and a more structured debate, and that is why our side of the house deserves to win vote for us.
We thank the previous speaker for their speech, and that marks the end of our debate. Participants may stay in the Zoom and let the judges deliberate, and the winners will be announced shortly after this. Now we're going to go on a short break.
Madu Rasa, buah ketekunan para ahli madu kami sejak 1984. Pemilihan bahan baku yang dilakukan dengan ketat. Proses produksi berstandar internasional. Menghasilkan madu rasa murni, madu terbaik dari alam Indonesia. Kenikmatan rasanya, sehatkan keluarga.
Madu ya madu rasa.
That is all for the grand finals of the English debate competition. Thank you to all competitors, judges from EDSUE, audiences, and organizing committees. And of course, congratulations to both teams for their achievements.
Again, we'd like to thank the sponsors of our event, Kombifa,
KFC Naughty by Nature,
Alto Architect,
Goreng-Garing,
Bakso Atom,
and Kinderi Yogurt.
And to those of you here, we would like to remind you to donate through Kita Bisa, which has already been opened by the Gonzaga Festival Committee. To make your donation, you can scan the QR code seen on the screen or simply click the link in the chat column and description box.
Your contributions, no matter how small, will surely be appreciated and useful for recipients of the donations later on, especially during this pandemic, as there are so many of our brothers and sisters out there experiencing hard times.
We would also like to invite everyone to the Gonzaga Festival closing event that will be streamed on YouTube tomorrow at 6 p.m. with a headliner and special performance by Hingga, which will definitely be a lot of fun. So don't forget to tune in and enjoy the show.
Thank you again for your participation and time, everyone, and to the viewers at home, thank you for watching.
Selamat datang di Gonzaga Festival 2021.
Welcome to Gonzaga Festival 2021.
Acara ini disponsori oleh
This event is sponsored by
Kombifar, KFC Naughty by Nature, Alto Architect, Goreng-Garing, Bakso Atom, Kinderi, dan didukung oleh
and supported by Sejuta Cita, Planet for Youth, Care Global, Jiwa Muda Bicara, Sanur FM, We The Genesis, Teen for Change, Create Team, Earth Hero, If We Wonder, Helpedia Indonesia, Green Scheme,
Arise Rose, Catalyst for Growth, Tumbuh Terus Bertumbuh, Concert Music Indonesia, Event Banget, Lomba Update, infolombaevent.id, Yuk Design, Pray Event, Laskar Gons, Gons FM. Selamat mengikuti rangkaian acara kami. Terima kasih dan sampai jumpa.
We hope to see you in the next few days. Thank you.
Jatuh satu, bangkit seribu. Mari bertumbuh dengan semangat menggebu.
SMA Kolese Gonzaga membuka pendaftaran penerimaan peserta didik baru tahun ajaran 2022-2023. SMA Kolese Gonzaga membuka 2 jalur pendaftaran. Pertama, jalur prestasi dibuka pada tanggal 7 September sampai dengan 5 November 2021. Kedua, jalur reguler dibuka pada tanggal 7 September sampai dengan 12 November 2021. Informasi lebih lanjut tersedia di laman resmi www.gonzaga.sch.id. Kami tunggu kehadiranmu di SMA Kolese Gonzaga.